seeing, do I look like I'm? Oops. The album. Oh, hold on 1 second. 1 second. 1 second. It needs to look like I'm looking at it. Okay, now I bet I look like I'm looking at it, right? Gotcha. Just treat you as another guest. By looking at you, I should be looking at the owl. So hopefully that is working out okay. Thank you all for coming. And today we have a really interesting agenda. We have 2 speakers. We have some good table topics and good inspiration. So let's get right to it. I'm Carla Sherry. I'm your Toastmaster of the day. And today's meeting is about what is the value of communication and leadership. So I'm going to cut to the bottom chase. Bottom line. Warren Buffett. How many know who Warren Buffett is? Warren Buffett says good communication skills up your income by $500,000. How many want to earn an extra $500,000? You can go look it up. This is what he says. The man has a few pennies. He must know a little bit of what he's talking about. And he also says he has a fear of public speaking. Hard to believe, but he has a fear of public speaking. So for those of you who are new, and for those of you online, what we're going to do today is I'm going to spend time introducing all the roles. Toastmaster works by pretty good formula so that we all get experience both listening and speaking and interacting. You have every opportunity to do that today and anytime you're at one of our meetings. So with that in mind, as I said on the Toastmaster day, I basically preside over the first half of the meeting. And then we have a general evaluator who presides over the second half of the meeting. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to ask our general evaluator, Sonia Ponsko, a little bit out of order, to talk about what you do and introduce the people who you'll be doing reports for you.
Fantastic, family. Hello from Maryland. It is my absolute pleasure to be your general evaluator today. As the general evaluator, we just assess the experience because the Toastmasters meeting is an experience, and having a fabulous tag team. We like to call them the tag team that helps us do that to make sure that you have the experience where Carla says, where you're learning leadership and communication skills be worth $1 billion one day. So first up, I'd like to call on our timer to give a little explanation of what it means to be a timer in a Toastmasters meeting.
You're the timer.
Is she gonna do it? Looks like she's.
Oh. Oh.
I mean, I signed up, but
okay.
Jennifer looked like she was.
All right.
As timer, I'm the person that gives you feedback on, have you met your goal? Like table topics is 1 to 2 minutes. Speeches are generally 5 to 7 minutes. And I'm going to use this card to say, yep, you've met your 5 minutes. Then this would tell you you're closer to your 7 minutes. This would tell you you're at 7 minutes, and then you would have a 30-second wiggle room there to close it out. So it's just helping us to keep on track with our time and just practice that, because that's a challenge to either make it long enough or not too long. So that's what I'll be doing as timer. Thank you.
Fantastic, because as we know, time is money. Now we'll call up our grammarian on-counter who gives us an explanation of that role and give us the word of the day.
Who's our grammarian today? I missed that. Mea culpa. Okay. Andy, I'm sorry, we do have a grammarian. Andy is our grammarian for the day. Okay, so come up and explain what the grammarian does.
I'm sorry. Thank you so much, Carla. Thank you for the warm welcome. As grammarian today, I will be selecting a word of the day to help members build their vocabulary. The grammarian listens for filler words, grammatical errors, and such. And so I will be keeping dutiful notes as each of you are taking turns speaking. So would you gently remind me of the topic for today?
Today's topic is communications and leadership skills.
I think a great word of the day would be leadership. Let's keep it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well,
fantastic. Thank you for demonstrating leadership skills on point. We appreciate you. We also have some evaluators, so you will meet at the end of the meeting. I'll save that nugget for later. Back to the Toastmaster of the day.
Okay, thank you very much, Sonia. Thank you, Andy, for stepping up and doing that. In Toastmasters, you learn a lot about leadership, and Andy's going to be taking measurements all day today on how many of us use that word. So I hope that we get 100%, since it is a word that we're all familiar with. If you take the opportunity within your speeches that are planned, or if you participate in table topics, let's use the word leadership. With that in mind, I'm going to turn the meeting now over to our invocation joke master, which is Debbie Turkinger. This helps to set the tone for the day, either by a joke or by an inspiration. And take it away, Debbie.
All right, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
All right, there are so many mottos out there and words of wisdom with Toastmasters. So I found a few, but the motto of Toastmasters is to be the first choice provider of dynamic, high value, experiential communication and leadership development. So that's probably what brought all of us here in some form or fashion to be a member here. Another common thought about Toastmasters is one important key to success is self-confidence, and an important key to self-confidence is preparation. And that's what we do as speeches. We prepare for the meeting, for any role that we take. Another one, be sincere, be brief, and be seated. There's where your timer comes in handy. And here's the last one. Whatever your grade or position, if you know how and when to speak and when to remain silent, your chances of real success are definitely increased. So it's a matter of knowing when to speak and when not to speak. But I want to thank everyone as I conclude for renewing your memberships. That was a goal for our club for the month. I think we did fabulous. We lost a couple, but their schedules just didn't allow them to be here. But thank you to everybody else who joined. And if we have a new member, we would look forward to you being a part of our group. So thank you.
Well, that was a filler word. I just want to point out, as you're recording filler words, I use well. I'm going to try to use all of them today. That's my excuse for using them. Before we go on to our first speech, I want to tell you that you are in good company if you have a fear of leadership and you have a fear of communication and you have a fear of speaking. And so what I'm going to tell you about is some of the people who you might not know had a fear of speaking. I'm going to give you two choices and you tell me. Winston Churchill, Tim Allen, the comedian. Fear of public speaking, Winston Churchill. Fear of public speaking, Tim Allen. By a show of hands, who thinks it's Winston Churchill? By a show of hands, who thinks it's Tim Allen? Winston Churchill had a terrible fear of public speaking, but the reason Tim Allen probably didn't is he was a Toastmaster. So there's a little piece of information you can take with you. With that in mind, I'm going to turn our meeting over. I think I've covered all the roles. If I've missed anybody, let me know. But I'm going to turn over our meeting to our first speaker, who is the famous David. And Jamil is going to be the evaluator for David at the end of the meeting. And you're a 5 to 7 minute speech? Is that approximately? All right. 5 to 8. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, and good afternoon, fellow Toastmasters and guests. My name is David Jones, MBA. Back in 2020, I received my MBA. And one of the first things I did was I went to my HR department and said, look what I have. I got a diploma. So when do I get a promotion? When do I get a raise? Is there a management training program I'll get involved in? And Human Resources said, congratulations on your accomplishment. We don't have any of that stuff. Now get back to work. Now, fortunately, I work for a large insurance company. So I started applying for management positions within the organization. And I'd go in for interviews and the interviewer would say, do you have any management experience? I'd say, no. That's why I'm applying for this job so I can move up the corporate ladder. And they'd say, This job requires 3 years experience. I'd say, that's why I'm applying for this job. I know that, but in order to get said experience, I need to get this position. It's a double-edged sword, and it was roadblocks I kept running into. Shortly before that, maybe a year or so before this happened, I had joined Toastmasters. And like all of you, I just came to become a public speaker. And I was asked to be treasurer of the club, Queen City, my home club. And I didn't know anything about, I didn't even know what that meant. I was like, what is a board member? What is a nonprofit? But I decided to go ahead and do it just to see how clubs work. And I became treasurer for a year. Then I became president of the club, area director. Area director is over 5 clubs, and now I'm division director over 20 clubs. But it all started back at the club level, where I just learned how to run a nonprofit. And a nonprofit club is the same as a department at a company. You know, you got to work with other people, other managers. You got to do onboarding of new members. You got to work with other members to make the meetings work. You have to set a budget. You have to work within the budget. And then you also have to answer to people above you, like area directors or division directors. It's the same as running a department. It's just doing a nonprofit. And if you happen to work for a company that has multiple offices or stores, that's where your area director or division directors come in handy, because you're learning skills on how to manage multiple clubs or multiple stores as you go along. But again, it all started with Toastmasters at the club level. Now, my day job is I'm a workers' comp insurance auditor. And like most professions, we have our own professional association. We're the Auditors Association. We're very creative with our title. And it's got the local level, which I've been a part of for a long time. You have the regional and then the national club. And like so many different associations, we struggled during the pandemic. You know, our membership went down. We couldn't have meetings or conventions. We couldn't have seminars. Insurance companies stopped funding us because they didn't know what was going on during the pandemic. We had to consolidate. We lost some leaders. But as the pandemic started slowing or going away from us, a year or so ago, we decided to start rebuilding the National Association. But they didn't have any leaders, and they asked for some people. And I said, you know, I've been doing Toastmasters. I know how to run a nonprofit. I know how to do hybrid meetings. I know how to do budgets. I know how to do all the things you need. And today, I'm the vice chairman of the Southeast region, and I'm also running for president of the National Association. And that's all because, oh, thank you. It's all because of the leadership skills that I learned at the local level of Toastmasters. Now that I had done all those things, I went back to my HR department. I said, look what I've been doing. I said, I have leadership skills. And sure enough, I got promoted. And then I got promoted again. And it's all because of the things that I did on my own. It's showing the company that you go above and beyond, that you're not doing the minimum job requirement. You're going out of, you know, you're spending your own time to go out and learn a new skill, which in turn is going to benefit them. No, I'm not using my own, I'm actually on company time now, so they don't know I'm here. No, they know I'm here. Because that's one of the things is as you start doing it, the reason I get promoted is my company has about 1,600 employees. And 3 people know about my Toastmaster and Auditors Association duties, and that's my CEO, my manager, and then my director of my department, because I let them know I'm promoting myself. I'm letting them know what I do when I'm promoted. I'm not George Santos, I'm actually doing it, and that's why I let them know what I'm doing. And that's why I've been getting promoted. I'm getting noticed because now so many of us are hybrid employees. And I know a lot of us love it. You're working from home. Now, I've been a hybrid employee for 30 years just because of my industry. But the problem with being a hybrid employee, you'll find out, is out of sight, out of mind. You know, you're not in the view of your boss. And, you know, like Mike is at the office and he's entertaining the boss and he's going out to lunch with him. So when a promotion comes, Mike's going to get it even if you're more qualified. And that's part of building yourself up, doing more skills, learning leadership skills at Toastmasters, and that'll help you get promoted as long as you let people know, because again, you're out of sight. Now, so coming in June, you're going to have elections for new officers. Every year, we have 7 new officers that come into the club, and that's where you get your start. You might not have even thought about it. You might not be thinking about it now, but it's something just of interest. It'll help you build your resume. It might help you get promoted at work, but you should do it mostly to give back, to help the club, because this meeting wouldn't be happening without the board members. And it would help your future Toastmasters. They're going to walk in the door just like you, scared to death, not knowing what to do, and they need your leadership. So in June, think about running for office. And if you've been an officer, we could use area directors. And again, that's the overseeing 5 clubs. That's a way of finding out how you can run them and do multiple things. It's a great learning experience, great leadership skills. And my takeaway, my call to action is in June, decide to run for office. Madam Toastmaster. You're welcome.
I'm inspired. I'm sorry. I hope you all are inspired too. And I like Sam from the Northeast, but I have adopted that conversation with you all. So I love it. I wanted to say that I knew what David was going to speak about, but for the rest of you, as you come up here, one of the things I'd like you to do is to tell me about one way you think Toastmaster has benefited for you, and that can be either in speaking or leadership. So as you come up, share a little bit about how you think Toastmaster has benefited you. With that in mind, we have our second speaker, Jeremy Suggs, who's going to speak to us about either Builder or Bueller. I'm going to go with Bueller, and I'm about to find out why. So thank you very much, Jeremy.
Is the mic optional, or are we doing that?
It works fine.
Can you guys hear me without the mic?
Oh, if you're standing over there.
Can you still hear me?
You sound a lot farther away now.
I'll use the mic then.
Okay.
Just because I want to use up the whole stage also. Oh, there we go. So it's Bueller. If you've ever seen Ferris Bueller, that's where the title of my speech came from, because my speech is my summary of my communication styles. So this is one of the projects that you have to do on your course to being a Toastmaster, and that's to do a questionnaire about different communication styles and speak about your communication style and other communication styles. Now, I didn't need a questionnaire to tell me that I am an analytical communicator. That is exactly what law school is for, is to beat everything out of your head except for being analytical. So the way my brain works is I take in information, it's on a conveyor belt. There's a little man in there that takes it out, puts it in the right box, and stores it away. The way I communicate back to you all is I take that information out of that box, I figure out the best path to put it in, and I present facts and figures to you in what seems like the most logical possible way for me. Shocker, not everybody is interested to hear every little fact and figure that I have collected and stored away. And at times it may come off as Bueller, that's what you hear. Another shocker, not everyone sees things as logical the way that I do. What I find to be logical, I may present to a judge and they say to me, I don't get it. How do you not get it? What are you talking about? It's because our brains don't work the same way. So we, as speakers and as listeners, we have to think about these other communication styles. Now, it was also no surprise to me to see that my second preferred communication style is direct. I am very direct. Just the facts, ma'am. That's it. I don't have time for small talk. I don't have time for fluff. And I'm not trying to give anybody else fluff. At the office, I'm not the person who's going around making the rounds, putting in FaceTime, asking how was your weekend, those sorts of things. When somebody comes in my office and they want to talk about my weekend, I'm like, why are you here? We're at the office. If I wanted to talk to you, I would call you up and talk to you on the weekend or, whenever my free time is. I'm here to get my work done. And for that reason, I can come off as very cold. I've heard in, the sort of 360 things that you do in a professional setting from time to time. I've heard the word cold. I've heard the word, you need to collaborate more with others. You need to, talk more with others. Now, anybody who actually works with me, they know that I'm not actually cold because they have seen me outside of the office. They've seen me at a Christmas party. They know how friendly I can be, but I just don't come across that way in most professional settings. Now, it was also no surprise that the two lowest communication styles for me are initiating, and supportive. Initiating would be someone who is essentially a social butterfly. That's not me. I don't go to professional events and work the room. I wish I had that skill more than I do, but that's just not my fallback. That's something that I have to continue working on. And again, when I hear others who that is their primary communication style, my initial response is to question their motives. We have a dad in our soccer parent group text thing that no matter what information somebody shares in the group chat, he's always got a response. Thanks, 3 exclamation points. Have a great day. Like, we didn't need that, dude. Nobody needed that from you. But that's him. He's initiating, and it has served him very well. He's very successful because he knows that that sort of additional contact is essential for long-term relationships. My primary modes of communication, I think, benefit me in the short term. I can get the information out. I can tell you what you need to know, hopefully in a logical fashion, but it's not going to help me build the long-term relationships that are essential for building a long-lasting career. The same goes for the final form of communication, supportive. I'm absolutely not supportive. It goes once again with being direct. My wife is supportive, extremely supportive, and it serves her well because she is a teacher. She teaches small children. We would want someone who is supportive to be communicating in a supportive way to our children. But here's the comparison. This is me ordering a pizza. Yes, I'd like a large pepperoni for pickup. Thanks. Bye. Here's my wife ordering a pizza. Hey, was it? Oh, Jess? Hey, Jess. Hey, this is Lindsay Sugg. And Jess, I was just wondering if it would be possible if maybe, I don't know if you can do this or not, but I would really like to have a large pepperoni pizza. If you could do that tonight, do you have time for that? Takes her 20 minutes to say what I could say in 1 minute. And I tease her about it all the time. She knows. But again, that is going to work for her in the long term. She knows that sometimes it's worth putting in that little bit of extra touches to build relationships. Now, in that particular instance, maybe the person on the other end of the line is like, come on, lady, just tell me what you want. But in other settings, that certainly serves her well. So when you're speaking and when you're listening, if you want to succeed in leadership, think about these different communication styles and how they can help you. Thanks.
That was excellent. it makes me think that there should be a Toastmasters Pat that is working the room, because I think that would be a good one, because who knew that was a need, but I guess it is. I actually don't like being around crowds anymore, I'll just tell you, Jeremy. So, I mean, I get it. Let's see. So with that in mind, I think what we're going to do, if you have a moment, let's do our timers report for our first two speeches so that we'll have that out of the way, if that's okay. The timer's coming back up, Debbie.
So I'm happy to report that the goal of those two speeches was between 5 and 7 minutes. And David, you came in at 6 minutes and 37 seconds. So, and Jeremy, you came in at 7 minutes and 21 seconds. So everybody made the deadline and, you know, worked out perfectly. So thank you.
Before we go on to table topics, I am going to ask a question. Another vote. Who is afraid of speaking publicly? Leonard Nimoy or Jay-Z? So who thinks it's Leonard Nimoy? Who's one vote here? Well, a few there. Who thinks it's Jay-Z? Okay. Jay-Z says that he is terrified of public speaking. He said that he has stage fright, and he said he says his coping mechanism, Jay-Z says that the bravado is an act of being a bravado. I am as nervous as blank blank. So Jay-Z is. Now Leonard Nimoy was a Toastmaster. He's a West Coast Toastmaster, very famous for out there being a Toastmaster. And so when he says live long and prosper, he's doing it without ums and ahs and ohs and it's and With that in mind, I'm now going to turn the meeting over to our spontaneous speaking portion. And Valencia, you're going to be our topic master of the day. I would like you to tell us how, in one way, Toastmasters has benefited you, either as a communicator or a leader.
Before we do that, I think Dr. Allison signed up for a speech.
Oh, I don't have her on my list. Is it so late? Is she even there?
Dr. Allison.
Yes, I am.
Oh, are you giving a speech? I don't have it on the list from this morning.
Oh,
Is that a yes?
Yes, I am.
Okay. What is the name of your speech and what is your pathway?
Motivational strategy, level 1, feedback and evaluation, number 1. And the name of my speech is Next.
Next, NEXT? All right,
NEXT.
well, then, without further ado, I'm going to look for a volunteer to evaluate her. Do we have someone online or in the room who can evaluate her? I don't want to miss any opportunities. Okay, Jeremy, would you like to evaluate her? So you're going to be evaluated by Jeremy. And without further ado, next up, we have Dr. Alice Ann Crump.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. What are you going to do next? That was the question most people asked after my husband passed. I didn't know what I was going to do next. I didn't know what I wanted because for the last 4 years, I had been really taking care of my husband. Now, I've been taking care of him for 40 years, actually, but the last 4 years, my whole focus was on him. I remember when the doctors told her there was nothing else they could do and he was going to be gone in 6 months. It lasted a whole lot longer than 6 months. And I remember my husband asking me, what do you want to do? And I thought, we'll make love to you every day. He gave me that smile. And I said, I wasn't talking about that. That's not a problem, but I wasn't talking about that. I wanted to make sure that you had the best quality of life. I wanted to make sure that you knew beyond any shadow of a doubt that you would love, you wouldn't have to want for anything. Now that he has passed, people are asking, what are you going to do next? And I didn't have a clue. I hadn't thought that far. All I thought about was making sure that he was taken care of. What was going to be my next? I had to think long and hard. Actually, it took me a couple of months to figure out what I wanted to do next. Carla, because you asked us to come up and talk about how Toastmasters has helped us. During my husband's long illness, Toastmasters was therapy for me. And now I can say that Toastmasters have motivated me for my next. I want to be a paid, inspirational, motivational speaker. And I say inspirational first because inspiration means to breathe. And I want to breathe life into everyone I speak to. And after I speak life into them, I want to motivate them to move forward. Now that's my next. What am I going to do in preparing for my next? I've already completed all 11 paths twice. I've already worked on 2 DTM. What am I going to do next? I'm going to start my round 3 of all 11 paths. Why, you might ask? You ask wonderful questions. I'm so glad you asked. Because I don't ever want to stop learning. Each time I've completed a path, to go through it again is never the same. I'm always motivated, especially with this path. Motivational strategy, this is the 5th time I have done this particular path. Truly, I want to be a motivational speaker. But right now, I'm being motivated. That was my next, to be motivated to be the best version of me. You see, when I was growing up, I was the oldest. I have 10 brothers and sisters, and I've always been the caregiver. I get married, my sister-in-law died, and I had her 2 small children. And I must say, my husband and I, this is no exaggeration, have raised or have had 100 children come through our home, foster parents. My goodness, I've been a caregiver forever. And the only person I wasn't caring for was me. So now this is my next. I'm taking care of me, pursuing what I want to do for me. That's my next. And I want to encourage you to think about what your next is. What is it that you want to do next? Are you preparing for it? Do you know what it is? And mind you, it took me a while to figure out what I wanted to do next. I hope you are encouraged to look for your next and walk in your destiny. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Well, I really have to say, she was not on the schedule, but I am so glad to hear that. I am inspired as always whenever you speak, Dr. Alice-Ann. And I found something that we have in common. I've also been a foster parent. And I will tell you, that is an experience that you could do 5 speeches on, at least in my case. But so very inspired by what you had to say. And I think we should always be looking at what we want to do next in our lives and keep that continuous education going. And not only do I think that, but sort of tying in with it, I'd like to go back to Winston Churchill for a second. And he said, he had a speech impediment, and he said that the first time he spoke before the House of Commons, that he struggled so much that he froze and he never even finished what he was saying in his maiden speech. He just couldn't do it. And so, but he worked and he persevered. Next, figure out what you're doing. And he said, never give in, never give in. never, 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 never give in. Nothing, great or small, large or petty, never give in, except to the convictions of honor and good sense. So I think that is something that's worth thinking about, and it does tie into what Dr. Allison had to tell us about today. With that in mind, I'm going to turn it back over to you, Madam Timer, if you would like, so you can give the speech timing.
Yep, and Allison, you came in at 5 minutes and 9 seconds. So awesome job, right in the range of between 5 and 7 minutes. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. And now, if I've got this on track, I'm going to turn it over to our table topics master, and I'm going to have her talk to us about one way that Toastmasters has benefited hers. And in addition, I just want to make sure we have Ronki on the line, and we have in the room, we have Ori, who is a guest another time, and then we have, don't tell me, David, another David. It's kind of confusing. Everybody from now on be a David. And he's also in the room. I don't know if you're familiar with them, in case they raise your hand to participate in table topics. I'll let you explain what you do at table topics and then lead us in it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. I would like to check to see, I know that I have note of the visitors, and I think I can see people in the room. But I wanted to make sure that I had a list of everyone, because I'd like to call on those people who maybe don't have a role in our meeting today. But before I do, let me just say that Toastmasters has changed my life. And I know I probably sound cliche in saying that. Okay, thank you, Ronki. I started Toastmasters because of not necessarily a fear of speaking, but more of losing all of my brain when speaking in front of a room, or even sometimes one-on-one speaking. So I needed the practice, and very similar to what David spoke on in his speech, when you're that person who's a clam in the room, you know, who wants you to be leading meetings and stuff like that? Like, how can you really lead the meeting? How can you be a leader in our organization? You're a clam. Clams don't talk. I needed the experience and the practice to be better. And that's how it's changed my life. People don't think of me as a clam anymore. I don't know what the metaphor of getting out of the clam would be. Like if it was a cocoon, I'd turn into a butterfly or something. So let me think about that. But anyway, let me get back into my Toastmasters. See, I shouldn't go on tangents. I mean, my table topics. All right, let's see. I'm going to call on someone from the room who I think is trying to blend into the back blinds. It looks like I see a figure sitting far off in the distance named Andy.
Let's do it.
All right, Andy. We are talking about communication and leadership with Toastmasters today. And I want to show you an image, Andy. And when you see this image, I need you to tell me a story, either true or false, about the last time you used this thing to communicate. Can you see my screen?
Yes, thank you, Madam Table Topics Master. The year was 2013. I had just gotten a job as a registered representative, which is code for a quasi-financial advisor. Some of you may or may not be familiar with the term. And that was my love and hate on a daily basis. As a new financial professional, a lot of our time is spent hounding the phones. Maybe some of you have done a stint in sales, and you might know this love-hate relationship that you have with the phone. Back before cell phones, it was the office line that we made the majority of our outbound calls, with mixed results, because sometimes people would pick up the phone because they didn't recognize the number, and other times they would send you straight to voicemail because they didn't recognize the number. Now, most sales professionals would probably say calling from the office line leads to a lot of voicemails left. Over the course of my career in financial services, I spent a lot of time as a recruiter and probably made about 99 calls for every pickup, whether going into voicemail or speaking to an assistant and then getting put into voicemail. So I can certainly say that I'm well versed in the world of the telephone system. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Andy. Show this to any person born after a certain year, and they may ask you what it is. All right, let's see. On our call on Zoom, I have Miss Jennifer. Are you there and available to do table topics with us today by chance?
Yes, I am. Yes.
There she is. We can't hear you. Oh, you can hear?
Okay. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Yes.
Okay.
All right. Miss Jennifer, please tell us a story. I'm going to share something on my screen. The story can be true or it can be made up about the last time you used this. Can you see it?
The telephone?
Oh, it's a radio.
Oh, the cassette player. Okay. Yes. I can really relate to that. I used to like to send message to my children, and I would use a cassette and tape it and send it to them. And recently I just bought another one because I still have cassettes, and I bought another radio with that takes cassette players. So this time I put on the tape my bucket list. And so my children, some of the daring things that I really wanted to do, but was afraid to do. And one was a storm chaser. I always wanted to do something crazy like that. So it was good for me then. And it's good for me now, even though I have retired. Recently, 3 weeks ago, I had a stroke. And I woke up and my whole left side was numb. It was 3 o'clock in the morning. And I have to pat my own self on the back because I showed no sign of fear. My body was attacked. And I said, oh my God. I called 911 and I told them I was having possibly a stroke. I wasn't sure at all, but I did take my blood pressure. So it was like 200 over 100 something. So I gave them all the information. And at that point of time, when I went to the hospital and everything to get everything done, after everything they told me I got there in time. So right now, I'm not paralyzed or anything like that now. And my speech is okay because I checked all of that when I made that call. So, but anyway, make a long story short, I didn't break down until after everything was done, and that the communication between me and my doctor we had a good communication. And had I been so upset that I couldn't talk, I could never tell them exactly what was going on with me. So that communication saved my life. And I reminded my son that I have a cassette tape that I want them to hear. It was my bucket list and different little things that I would like to have and what need to go where. Even though I had it on paper, but I just want them to hear my voice. I want them to know how much I love them and how much and what they mean to me and meant to me in my life, and the joy that they have brought to my life. And that cassette player that I know it would mean so much to them as it meant to me to make that tape. Thank you.
Aww. I'm so thankful that you're here with us. Thank you for sharing and being vulnerable in that moment. Wow. Whew.
Thank you.
All right. I don't know. I'm feeling like I need to drop the mic on this one, but I will call for one more because I want to pick on Jamil. Jamil, if you would please approach the lectern. I think you're good at this. Either, Jamil, when you see this image, tell us a true story, or you may make it up about the last time you saw this image and what was communicated. Can you see it?
Breaking news. Thank you, Madam Table Topics Master. When I see these images, my mind goes to the weather. For some reason, it goes to the weather. And the reason why it goes to the weather is because I've noticed no matter what type of weather it is, they try to make it seem like it's this massive occurrence. So it could be chances of dramatic sunshine. So it's like, that's not really a thing. It's just the sun shining. That's what the sun does. But it's the first alerts or the flash weather. Every channel has their version of, hey, listen to our weather first because we really got the inside scoop and we really have the information that you need to tune into. And no matter what it is, it could be a possible snowstorm at some point in the wintertime. But meanwhile, we're in the middle of summertime. But they do all of these different things, these different tactics. And I've heard one of the PR terms is if it leads, or if it bleeds, it leads. So meaning that if you add the shock value, then people will tune into what you're saying. So anytime I see that, I immediately do the opposite. I'm like, no, they want me to look. So no matter what it is, I'm not going to look. And it could be, there's probably not a best practice because it could actually be a bad thing that's about to happen. And I need to tune into it. But for some reason, when I see this stuff, I think about what they're trying to do to me and try to say to me, and I rebel. So that is what I think about anytime I see breaking news, because it's really not breaking. It's just news to me. All right. Thank you.
So Jamil, it sounds like you see faking news, not breaking news. Well, thank you all for participating in the table topic session today. I appreciate you all.
Thank you. Excellent table topics. And Jeremy, when you were talking earlier, you were talking about the phone like this, and that reminded me of that phone, but my kids do this. So you have just aged out of something. I'm not sure what, but you have aged out of it. Thank you again. That was excellent table topics for this day. Now I'm going to turn it over to our general evaluator, Ms. Sonia Pons.
Hey, Pam. Thank you so much, family. We're short on time. So I'm going to ask our evaluators to keep it to 2 minutes. All right. So first up is Alice Ann, who's going to evaluate David. 2 minutes, Alice Ann.
Actually, it was me. Mill's taking David's.
2 minutes. Okay, I got you. David, what you did great. Oh my goodness. Had a vision.
Hold up. Alice Ann, hold up, Alice Ann. Alice Ann is actually on the schedule to do it. Who's going to do it, Jamil? Yes. It's okay. Go ahead. Hold on, Alice Ann, and let Jamil do it. And then, were you here to hear Jeremy's speech, Alice Ann? Okay, I'll have you, Jeremy. Okay, thanks. All right. Go ahead, Jamil. 2 minutes.
Alice Ann, you did it the right way. You signed up. I just did it here in person. So that has nothing to do with Jeremy's speech. And Jeremy, you're back there. David's speech. David Jones' speech title. One of the things I noticed about your speech, David Jones, MBA. That's the speech title. one of the things I liked about your speech is you did a great parallel in between Toastmasters and the leadership development training and the different things that Toastmasters offers from a leadership standpoint, since a lot of times we talk about the speaking aspects of Toastmasters and don't really show or highlight that much about the leadership component. So I'm glad you were able to add that in. You went to your boss or HR, you didn't go to your boss, you went to HR and said, hey, I did this thing, got my MBA. You even had the flashcard as a visual aid, and that represented your MBA certificate, but really it was just a flashcard. But I like the way you made it relevant too, because when you have jobs, a lot of us that are still working, I know everybody's not still working, but we can remember the times that we had to keep working. But I love the parallel and what you did about it. You took an action step and you was like, okay, I'm in Toastmasters. Toastmasters offers leadership. Let me go into get some more leadership and then apply that into my corporate career. And it worked. So great job with that. And your story was very well organized. And that was part of the requirements for your evaluation. It said, tell a well-organized story. Sometimes people, they're very entertaining when they present a speech, but it's kind of all over the place. That's part of the entertainment. It's kind of funny that people are rambling, at least to me, but some of their subject matter might be entertaining, but it's kind of hard to follow. So you did a great job telling the story and putting it in a timeline where it was easy for us to follow. One of the things I would suggest, I noticed towards the end in your closing, your segue, you hesitated just a bit, and it's like you were trying to figure out how should I land this plane, which can happen to a lot of us. So I would recommend just kind of thinking about how you want to end that speech, and you also use stronger transition words like in closing, or to summarize, or to put it in a nutshell. That way, us as the listeners knows that you're about to end this speech, and we really want to grab onto what was a great closing statement. You said, my call to action is, right? You eventually got there. My call to action is consider signing up for an officer role. So great job with that. I look forward to hearing more speeches.
Fantastic, Jamil, stay up. Alexander just dropped off, so you are now the evaluator for Jeremy. Thanks.
Howdy, howdy. David Jones. I will be evaluating Jeremy. Jeremy, great speech. Like everybody, I didn't know what Bueller was until you came up and said it was Ferris Bueller, and that made total sense. You start off by getting our attention by going center stage instead of standing where we're all standing here. I thought that was a great move. Just went over there. It wasn't the norm. And then as you spoke, you talked about, for instance, your analytical mind, and you gave us a diagram that we could see of a man actually running around in your mind doing things, and we could visually see that, not just hearing what you're saying, but we could visually see it. You had humor in your speech where you talked about how the judge didn't understand you sometimes, which I automatically went to Utes with my cousin Vinny. I could just see the judge looking at you like you're crazy. For room for improvement, although you went center stage, you stayed center stage. Now, I know they say you should be walking around, but I also had a speaker once say, you shouldn't just walk around because you look like you're scared and you're pacing, but you could also just walk up to people and talk to them in person, but just move from that one space. And then also you should have went back to Ferris Bueller at the end and your closing, because you started with Bueller, but you just kind of started with that part of it. But I did like that you were relatable. You had 3 points that related to me. Small talk. The busier I get, the less I have time for small talk. You talked about the dad in the group that's in the chat. I think we all can relate to that, where somebody's already doing their input. And then, of course, the pizza reference. Anybody who's married or has been married can definitely relate to that. But overall, I thought it was a great speech. And back to you, Madam General Evaluator.
Fantastic. I'll go really quickly. Everybody, I love how we welcome and celebrate people when we start our club meeting. That is fantastic. It shows how we appreciate and care about one another. I love how you guys are getting the troubleshooting right away at the beginning of the meeting. It says you want people to have a quality experience. If I can only call us out on anything, we use Free Toast Host. So if you need to sign up for something, you need to sign up on Free Toast Host. Also, we want to have an entire meeting where everybody gets full evaluations and be able to participate in table topics. So maybe next time, instead of having 3 speeches on the roster, only have 2, so we can have time for table topics and time for evaluations. With that, fantastic job, everyone. And I'll turn it over to our president, Jamil Massey. Jamil, send us out.
Okay, thank you for that great evaluation, general evaluation of the meeting. And that's part of the role as the general evaluator. It's not only to run the second half of the meeting and let us know what the timer reported. Wait, we missed the all counter report. That's okay, that's okay. There were a few filler words, right? Andy's giving me the green light to point out there were a couple filler words. We weren't too awful, too bad, but you know, it's just to be cognizant that the fact that we do have some filler words, and it's not to completely eliminate them. If you can, great. But you just want to be mindful that, you know, you want to try to minimize it. So great job with that. Jeremy, I agree. I love the humor in your speech. There are people who are like, I'm dry, deal with it. But you also work in your personality. And so I do remember hearing you a few times in your speeches, but today I definitely think it stood out that your personality. So great job with that. So that's all the announcements that I have for today. I want to make sure we don't have any others. Debbie, Carla, you already went over renewals. Great job getting that done. Carla?
I would say
briefly.
One thing I learned is normally print off the agenda, and I didn't go back and look at the agenda to see that there were updates at that last minute. So that's probably what slowed us down a little bit, my confusion over what was going on behind the scenes.
That's okay.
I just didn't.
That's okay. And that's the one thing I like about our club. We're flexible. We fill in the gaps when we need to. We pivot, we adjust as needed, and we end up with a great meeting. So with that, I want to go ahead and bring this meeting to a close. We're actually going to end early today, if I shut up. So thank you all for another great meeting. Look forward to seeing you all next week, and y'all have a great rest of the week. All right, talk to y'all later.